Welcome to the Power and Light podcast. And it's a special one indeed because it's a big day for Kansas City Chiefs fans. It's a big week. It's a big 2 weeks. It's a big season. The Kansas City Chiefs will be playing in the Super Bowl for the fourth time in the last 5 years. And they're trying to go back to back for the first time in a while. Only a few teams have ever been able to do that. We'll dive right into that in a little bit. But first up, Preston Graber, welcome to the show. How are you doing today?
Thank you. Thank you. Doing good.
And then Jude Miley, how are you doing today?
I'm doing really good, Josiah. How about you?
I'm doing great. And I think the biggest reason why is because I get to watch the Super Bowl on Sunday and I get to watch my team in the Super Bowl. But the best thing is, keyword, I get to watch. This year, the average ticket price for the Super Bowl to go to it is just a little bit under $10,000. That is ridiculous. It's 70% increase from last year. Jude, why is there such an increase in ticket prices this year?
Because I think everybody wants to watch Taylor Swift's boyfriend play football.
Okay, we'll get to that a little bit later. But Preston, besides that whole deal going on, is there any other reason besides it just being a very good game?
It's in Las Vegas. Las Vegas is a new stadium. There's a lot of high rollers around Las Vegas that are willing to pay a lot of money. And California isn't that far of a flight. It's like probably in less than an hour, I think. And so they're really just bringing in all the high-end celebrities for the game. And unfortunately, that means not many of the casual fans can go.
Yeah, even the non-casual fans. Apparently, Donna Kelsey won't be in a suite this year, which is crazy. So, regardless of ticket prices, regardless of who's going to be there, the biggest thing on everybody's mind is the legacy of this game. There's actually two storied teams in here, and for more, I would guess like less knowing more about the current state of football and less about the history, you may not know that the 49ers are a very successful franchise. They already have six Super Bowls, which is tied for the most, and they are about to play in their eighth. Excuse me, they have five. They're aiming for their sixth. They're trying to tie the Patriots with that prestigious sixth Super Bowl. And a lot of those were won a while ago with Joe Montana. And there there's a difference, right? There's a difference in the teams. This quarterback for the 49ers is not a Super Bowl superstar quarterback, but he is surrounded by superstars. Preston, break down this 49ers offense for me and why it's so special.
Well, I think the main part of that is Christian McCaffrey. I mean, they brought him over from Carolina last year in week, I believe it was 7 or 8. And since then, their offense has just been high flying. And that's around the time where we see Brock Purdy stepping into that major role in the offense and leading them. And he's only lost like, I think it's 4 games total in his career. Maybe it's 5. But either way, he hasn't lost very much. So I think a key part of that's Christian McCaffrey because he's so dynamic and you can just hand the ball off to him and know he's getting 8 to 10 yards carry pretty much. And then obviously Ayuk's really come out of his shell this year. He's looking like the first round receiver that they drafted him as. And Debo's obviously there with some injuries. He's dynamic when he gets in. And then you got George Kittle, and he can take the top off of linebackers pretty quickly without trying. Their O line has a lot to be desired with just Trent Williams, but I mean, their offense is high powered because they got all those stars. Even any quarterback would succeed in that system.
Any quarterback. I feel like we've talked about the 49ers a lot this year, but I feel like this is something we've discussed in the sense of, I think we all agree. I don't think Zach Wilson would succeed in that system, but I understand what you're saying. A lot of quarterbacks with that many weapons would definitely succeed. And the joke on everybody's mind is Brock Purdy is getting paid less than most people are paying for Super Bowl tickets. Is the joke that people are saying because he's on a rookie
Yeah.
contract, but he's not the highlight of this offense. You mentioned it right there. It's CMC, Christian McCaffrey, who just has under 1,500 yards this year. Jude, explain to me why Christian McCaffrey is such a good running back for these 49ers.
It, sta- it starts with his legs. Christian McCaffrey has some nice legs that move in a way that not many people can move their legs. His hips bring this power to his stride. How he just pounds defensive players. It's insane. And the thing is, he can't just run, but he can catch. He can get space open on a screen route. He can make moves with his receiving hands, and it's just the combination, the dual threat that he has with the other threats on offense just creates for so much opportunity for him to produce.
That's true. He is definitely a weapon out of the backfield, and you're going to be able to see that on Sunday. The biggest thing is, though, is how can the linebackers for the Kansas City Chiefs contain him? That's the biggest thing because, yes, Brock Purdy has some legs, but he's not going to have the legs that Lamar Jackson did in the AFC Championship. Yes, Brock Purdy actually used his legs in the AFC Championship to catapult the 49ers into the Super Bowl, but it's not as electric as Lamar Jackson is. But Christian McCaffrey, he definitely is to that caliber. Talking about this linebacker room, though, Preston, the Chiefs went out and got Drew Tranquil this offseason, and they're playing with a little bit of injury to Willie Gay. Obviously, he didn't play in that AFC Championship game, but he's doing better. He's more healthy. This linebacker room is special, and I think Tranquil was kind of the extra piece, the final piece to the puzzle. Is that something that you would agree with?
Yeah, I mean, we brought him in, and honestly, that was probably one of our season-saving moves because Bolton got hurt. We saw that, and Willie Gay's been dealing with his neck injury. So it's been a rough go, but we're sort of climbing back. But yeah, Tranquil's been outstanding. He's more than I liked him when we brought him in, and obviously Andy Reid wanted him. So if Andy Reid wants a guy, he's going to be good. But we see him flying all around the field, making the tackles in the backfield. So I think he's a key piece to the puzzle.
There's a lot of pieces to that puzzle. That defensive room for the Chiefs is one of the best in the entire NFL. And I would say they kind of bested the best defense in the NFL, at least in one game in the AFC title game against the Ravens. This defense could, with a very young defense, they have a lot of little things, but Steve Spagnuolo has done an incredible job last year, especially winning with all those rookies, but then this year winning with all of these sophomore players. Jude, the Chiefs are in a unique position. A couple years ago in the same game, the 49ers faced the Chiefs just a couple years ago, and the Chiefs ultimately won, giving Patrick Mahomes his first ring. But a lot of people were cheering for the Chiefs, non 49ers, non Chiefs fans, because they just wanted to see this young team win. Now, it's a little different. Heading into media night, you could tell that the vibes were a little bit different. And the 49ers fans and other fans kind of booed the Chiefs off the stage. Jude, they described it as being villains. How does it feel to be a fan of a team that calls themselves the villains?
So, yeah, the thing about that is I think that was a weird situation. I don't think the Chiefs are the villains in this situation. But for them to self-proclaim themselves as villains, I personally I'm not a fan, all right? I don't think people should paint themselves as villains, right? Because that makes themselves look like the evil side. And, I'm not a fan of that. But for them to say that, that's probably some of that what do you call it? Game, like just they're making a play, right? They're just trying to hype it up a little bit, right? Put themselves in this role, and I understand that. I respect their desire to make it entertaining, but personally, I wish they were like the rebels or something at least, not the villains.
Okay. All right. I understand that point of view. And I actually think that's a really great take on it. So the villain, I think part of it is there's always a team that's very good, right? But then there's dynasties, and I think the Chiefs are on the verge of the dynasty. I personally believe that they're already there, regardless if they win on Sunday or not. But there's a lot of people saying that, man, if they win the Super Bowl, that's three now for Mahomes. That would mean that this is a dynasty surrounded not only by Patrick Mahomes, but created by Andy Reid and Brett Veach, and then a ton of other pieces. There's a lot of other things that we can go into later, but I want to talk about what the biggest, I would say, I guess the smallest piece of the Chiefs winning on Sunday. If the Chiefs were to win, there are only a couple teams that have ever won back-to-back championship. So obviously, last year's Super Bowl, the Chiefs beat the Eagles. So they are the defending Super Bowl champions. So they're going for back to back. And if you know anything about sports, it is very difficult to go back to back in professional athletics. But the Chiefs are 60 minutes away from doing so. So here are the teams that have done this in the history of the NFL: the Packers, the Dolphins, the 49ers, the Cowboys, the Broncos, and the Patriots, and then the Steelers, who did it twice. Now, that sounds like a lot, but think about that. That's like 6 or 7 teams times two, and that's 14 out of the, what, 50 to 100. I mean, there's so many years in the NFL. It's very difficult to repeat. And a lot of those were pre 2000, with the exception being obviously the Patriots and the Steelers. So the Patriots, led by Tom Brady, this is something that everybody's discussing. Will Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs catch up to Tom Brady and his dynasty? Obviously, he has 7. So just a small little note there. Going back to back would be huge. But then also, Patrick Mahomes has the opportunity, if he were to win on Sunday, to go for 3. And I know this is getting way ahead of ourselves, but in the Last Dance documentary, Michael Jordan is talking about how he was kind of done after the second one in a row, the first time around, second championship in a row, and he was kind of done. But what he said to reporters, or I guess he said to his teammates, was the third was something that Magic Johnson and Larry Bird never did, 3 straight. And if Patrick Mahomes can get into that category of 3 straight Super Bowls, I don't think there's much more argument against him from not being one of the greatest players of all time. I already think he's the greatest, but I think people are starting to shift that way. Preston, I know this is way far ahead of ourselves, but we didn't even think, I think halfway through the season, I think there was at one point where you said the Chiefs are just bad because of the wide receiver situation. But how has the perception of the Chiefs shifted so dramatically throughout the year?
Yeah, well, I think the key component of that is us leaning more towards Pacheco and Rice, because, well, at the beginning we didn't really know what Rice was because he was a rookie, and so in Andy Reid systems they slow into things. But I think the public's perception has changed. You see a lot more picks going towards the Chiefs' way for this game, which is interesting because they've been dogged on the whole year. But it seems like it's been on an uprise, and hopefully will continue that way through the end of the year.
Well, even with the picks going in favor of the Chiefs, the betting rooms, the betting odds at least, they are saying that the 49ers are favored to win, which I don't know if that's disrespectful, but honestly, I don't care. And I honestly also am kind of happy at the same time, because when the Chiefs are underdogs, I feel like they play like underdogs. And in a situation where you have 2 incredible teams, I said beginning of the season, these are 2 best teams in the NFL, with the Eagles being a close third. But man, I was wrong about that. But these are 2 very good teams, and I'm very happy that's going to be hopefully a good Super Bowl. Now, Jude, we got 2 really great tight ends in this game. Obviously, we have Travis Kelce with all of his storylines and everything behind him. But then on the other side for the 49ers, we have George Kittle, who, yes, he does not catch as many balls as Travis Kelce, but he is an incredible blocking tight end. And he's kind of the last of a long, he's last of his breed, I guess, in the blocking tight end category, but he also catches the ball. But both of them have larger than life personalities. Can you talk a little bit about the 2 tight ends that we'll see on Sunday?
Yeah, and personality wise, I lean, unfortunately, I lean towards George Kittle because, he's a happy guy. He's got this kind of craze to him. He's kind of like, whew, and like he kind of makes me think, man, he's enjoying his job. Travis Kelce, he's got a spicy personality, but it's more just like it almost has this immature vibe to it, which, isn't a bad thing. He's a football player, so he's gonna, be a little bit rough going, It's just how his job is. You have to be professional. But um, you know, so what I'm saying is personality wise, I like George Kittle, but they both have this spice to them, which is good. And it will make an interesting game. You see how they react during the game, Kelsey can get hot headed sometimes, and George Kittle is just a funny guy, so it'll be fun to watch.
Yeah, they're also very good friends. So I'm not too worried about them getting hot headed against each other, but they're both very passionate, and there's a very good chance there's almost indefinitely we will see that on Sunday. It's a great matchup. There's nothing we can say more than it's just going to be a very, very great matchup. But Preston, we've talked a lot about this offense with the 49ers, and we haven't given enough credit to this defense. Now, I don't think personally this defense is as good as the one that you had in that original Super Bowl, the first one in which the Chiefs won. However, I do respect this defensive line that has a lot of elite players. And then they went out and grabbed Chase Young, who I think is one of the guys that you should be looking forward to have a breakout year next year, because he just wasn't in a great situation and injuries have kind of held him back. But you broke down that offense for us. Can you break down this defense for us and what the Chiefs should be scared about on this 49ers defense?
Yeah, I mean, obviously their pass rush is good. Unfortunately, they have a lot of people. They keep bringing in more with Chase Young. Chase Young may or may not, he'll suit up, but people were saying that he wasn't necessarily the most motivated player, so they might not play him full snaps or whatever. But then you got Bosa, Armstead, like they got people on the line that can get to the quarterback. So that's a little bit scary, I think, just because our O line is a bit uncertain right now with Tooney out and all that. Uh, I'm not too scared about their cornerbacks or their safeties. Hufanga's obviously a good safety. Travaris Ward has turned into a top 10 cornerback out of nowhere, unfortunately. Too bad the Chiefs let him go. But their linebackers, obviously, Fred Warner's the guy. He's the best linebacker in the league. I know we like to say it's Nick Bolton. Nick Bolton's really good, but Fred Warner's just another breed. He's the Luke Kuechly of this generation of football players. So he's someone that could wreck the game as far as tackling Pacheco behind the line, getting some picks, not letting Kelsey get deep and all that.
Yeah, I agree that Fred Warner, this defense, I don't know if it's as good, like I mentioned, but Fred Warner is an extremely special player. Obviously, he was all pro at linebacker. And I do believe we're going to see the top two linebackers in the entire league on Sunday between Nick Bolton and Fred Warner. But if you're going off just this year or just their careers as a whole, it's got to go to Fred Warner because he is definitely the veteran in that comparison. Jude, I want to ask you about the 49ers and their practice facility. There's some complaints that are coming out of the 49ers camp early in the week. They've actually what I respect about the whole situation is that they are not making a huge deal out of it. But the Chiefs, first of all, which is very funny, are practicing in the Las Vegas Raiders facility. It's very ironic that the Chiefs are practicing in the Raiders facility for a Raiders at a playoff game in Las Vegas before the Raiders are able to. I think it's extremely ironic. People like to call it Arrowhead West. But on the other side, the 49ers are practicing at UNLV, the University of North Las Vegas. Now, there's some issues with the field, some people have been saying, and there were so many concerns. There's lots of stats out there, but basically, there was just a lot of concerns with it. And it was so bad that at one point, the NFL sent out 23 experts to double check everything. And they came back and they said it's satisfactory. So, Jude, are the 49ers just trying to get a little bit of support behind them, or are they just whining?
So this is kind of a complex issue. Let me get you deep into here. So the 49ers have these facilities that are, you know, on a level below, like it's college, right? They don't have the money. I don't know. They might have a lot of money. But anyways, not necessarily for the football stadium. They don't have that much money as like, a professional team would, because it's like the professional team. That's their entire job. It's the entire thing that they are. So it's like, not even necessarily from what they actually have, but from like a outside view, from like a credit, ethos. It's how it looks like what you would consider more like you would want to go to a professional stadium rather than a college stadium, right? So from that view, the 49ers seem like they're getting the short end of the stick. But what this actually is the 49ers are making themselves seem like they have this weak facility that they can't practice as well. So when it comes to game time and they're in that field and everybody's looking at them, they're gonna be like, yeah, this is the field we deserve to be on. And then they're gonna have this extra fire and they're gonna attempt to win the game, except they're just simply not good enough to.
Okay,
Wow.
Judah previewing his pick in the future. But the one thing that people do need to realize is some people are complaining. They're like, well, so why did the Chiefs get the, like Jude mentioned, the professional facilities and the 49ers get the collegiate facilities? Well, each year they rotate, the AFC and the NFC being the home team. And so this is not the Chiefs being the favorite or the Chiefs being a huge, I guess, the brand of the NFL. It has nothing to do with that. It is the truly back and forth. If this was played 1 year later, the Chiefs would be at the UNLV stadium. So, or excuse me, practice facility. But that's just a small detail. There's lots of storylines off the field, but I appreciate, but with the exception of some very small trash talking, there's not that much trash talking going back and forth between the players, and I think that it, taking away the drama is huge. Jude, a Super Bowl without, I mean, we have some drama with some of the Travis Kelsey stuff, but on the field drama, how big is it having low drama between these players?
That just means that they want to play a game. All right. There's nothing more than just they want to play a game. They want to win. All right. They're not trying to talk themselves up like Tyreek Hill, right? They're trying to focus on the game and do what they can to win the game. It's gonna add to the atmosphere, the intensity. Like they're both there to show up and do business. So, they're both gonna want to win. It'll be good.
All right. Let's move into the running back room. We already kind of touched on it earlier with Christian McCaffrey. Obviously, the 49ers have Christian McCaffrey, and the offense kind of goes through him. That's just kind of how the offense is designed. And really, we saw sparks of that offense in that first Super Bowl. And what were they missing? Maybe the answer is Christian McCaffrey, who they now have. But I want to talk about Pacheco, Isaiah Pacheco for the Chiefs. Preston, this guy is having an incredible year, but he just the we've seen it his entire career, his entire 2 year career, that he just runs with so much passion and so much fire behind him. How big of an impact do you think he can make on Sunday?
Yeah, I mean, we saw the offense lean on him in three of the last seven games we played. He ended up getting, I think it was 17 plus carries in those three games. So he's just reliable. He may not break open the runs like Christian McCaffrey, but he's good for 80 to 100 yards a game if you give him the rock 15 times. So he's that reliable force of yards. He's explosive at times, and hopefully we use him more in the passing game because when he's got the ball out of the backfield, he's been really good. So I'd like to see them utilize him more in that way. But there is a rumor that McKinnon might come back, so we may not necessarily need that.
It's not necessarily a rumor. He just is trying to get back, and his injuries coming off, he's trying to get past. But a guy who we don't think, according to Andy Reid, we don't think is going to play is Joe Tooney. How big of an impact is losing him, Preston?
I mean, obviously, it's a big impact because he's the best left guard that there is in the league. But at the same time, I think we have one of the better backups in the league in Nick Allegretti. He's done this before. He came in for the last Super Bowl, or wait, 2 years ago, sorry, when for the Bucks. So it's not new to him. He's done it before, and he's just learning his role as a backup even more.
Well, last time Nick Allegretti came in for a Super Bowl, the Chiefs got absolutely demolished. Now, it's not just him, but the reason we lost, there's a couple off the field reasons, but the biggest reason on the field had to be that offensive line. And these tackles have shown improvement, but we still have the tackle with the most penalties in what NFL history in a season in Jawan Taylor. Jude, are these guys, Donovan Smith and Jawan Taylor, going to be able to step up when the Super Bowl comes around?
Yeah, I think they will. Like, if you look at the 49ers, like the Lions scored like 30 points on them. The Packers should have scored 30 points on them. So I don't think the defense is like that's good. But at the same time, the Chiefs do need to be ready. And I think Patrick Mahomes is shifty enough, and he's been, probably physically going to be in really good condition after a couple weeks off. So I think he'll be able to get out of any potential pressure enough times that he can make plays and score points. So I don't think it'll be that big of an issue.
Yeah, we said it in that last preview for that AFC Championship game in that last episode. We said either team that wins, we were looking at injury reports when we said this, either team that wins is going to have 2 weeks to rehab and get their guys healthy, with the exception of a few guys like Charles Omenihu. Like that's, he's not coming back because it's a season-ending injury. There's a couple guys that were dealing with small things and now they're healthy, like Kadarius Toney or L'Jarius Sneed. Like they're dealing with things small maybe, but now even Chris Jones. But now they're able to get into a situation where they get 2 weeks to rehab. And really, as we've learned, because we are spoiled as Chiefs fans to experience this Super Bowl week multiple times, Super Bowl week practices are actually pretty light. Monday, they come in, they're super aggressive. They do full pads, everything. Tuesday is a lot lighter. Wednesday is usually just a walkthrough. And then Thursday and Friday is kind of a wild card, but usually it's pretty relaxed generally over the entire week. It's more, Andy Reid described it as more looking at what the other team's going to do and less about physically getting ready, because right now they are at their peak and there's not much more they can do to get even higher. They need to focus on just getting ready and getting the best game plan they can. We're going to see two of the best offensive minds in all of football on Sunday. Preston, who do you think has the advantage in the offensive play calling spot, I guess, for the Super Bowl?
Well, I mean, it's got to be the Chiefs with Andy Reid and Matt Nagy. Uh, it's just I don't know. I've never been a fan of how the 49ers run their offense. I think they utilize McCaffrey great, but I think there's a lot more they could do where they would be a lot more explosive because I just see them run the same play action pass over and over again where I feel like they could be using different stuff. So just based on my personal opinion, I think that the Chiefs have the upper hand on offensive play calling. Uh, also because we have Patrick Mahomes, and if he wants to, he can call plays. That Andy Reid has said that, and we've seen Mahomes get on his high where he feels like he needs to control the game, and he does. So
Yeah, it is definitely a unique offense. And as I mentioned earlier, we did have almost an entire episode talking about how unique the offense is. But I think one of the big things that might happen is there might be a culture switch in the NFL if the 49ers are able to pull it off. Because I think right now every single team is looking at how can I win with the quarterback, right? How I need the quarterback and then I build around him. And yes, I believe that is still it, but the NFL may move in the direction of, oh, I build the team and then I just throw anybody in there, at least somebody competent in there, and then I can run a great offense. All right, we're running out of time, but I want to touch on a couple things. Jude, we have to go to it just because there's a reason. There's a lot of money. You mentioned it earlier, but give me the Taylor Swift update. Is she going to make it on time to watch?
You know, according to my research, Japan, what I read was Japan says Taylor Swift will get there in time. Now, secretly, what would be cool to see is if she makes it there like halfway into the first quarter and like they stop the game because like all the fans start running on the field because they see Taylor Swift for some reason they like, woo, Taylor Swift. Anyways, I don't, that wouldn't actually happen, but it would be interesting if she didn't actually make it and there'd be a lot of drama. All the Swifties like, I'm going home now. I only came to see Taylor Swift. But that probably wouldn't actually happen. It'd just be cool.
Jude just brought something up that I didn't even think about. She said that she wasn't going to be a part of the halftime show, but what if she's running a little bit late and the very end she parachutes in and sings a song with Usher? I'm just saying that would be hard to beat, even as someone who's not a big Taylor Swift fan. That would be pretty hard to beat as a halftime show. All right, on a little bit more of a serious note, L'Jarius Sneed is one of Brett Veach's top priorities this offseason. He wants to get him a long-term extension. But another guy that he wants to stay as Chief might be playing his last game for the Kansas City Chiefs, and that is Chris Jones, who will be a free agent after this season. Preston, we can dive into this. We have so much time after this game to dive into so many little intricacies of the Kansas City Chiefs. But you just based on what you know right now, do you think this is Chris Jones' last game as a Kansas City Chief?
I would like to think it is. I personally don't want Chris Jones back. Uh, I love Chris Jones as a player. He's a great player. Nothing on him, just for the betterment of the Chiefs. I hope he's not back because the salary cap would be unfortunate, and I would like to see that put in the offense. Uh, do I think he'll be back? Probably not. It's leaning towards Veach looking like he won't re-sign him, which is again fine. Uh, we've seen Turk Wharton come in and do pretty good and Naughty. It will just really depend on, and hopefully we can find someone in the draft.
Yeah, Preston is he loves Chris Jones. You just said it right there. He's just saying like it costs a lot of money to retain somebody, and when they're old and you're not guaranteed production, it's difficult to sign a guy like that. And I think I'm in the same boat as you, Preston. I feel like this Chris Jones has done so much for us as a franchise, and I appreciate everything he's done. But this could be his last game. So Chiefs fans, savor it. All right. So I'm gonna set up our picks, and then obviously we will have our final. We'll finish it off with Jude's quote of the day, but I'd like to set this up with one more little bit of a different perspective. So the 49ers coming into this game, obviously, I already said it. They're going for number 6. And that's a big deal, right? The 49ers, one of the most storied franchises in all of football. They're trying to get that number 6. And they're also mentioned, we're kind of summarizing this episode, is they're trying to change the culture of the NFL. They're trying to change what if they were to win with Mr. Irrelevant, that's just something that completely sends shockwaves into the NFL. But on the other side, you obviously have Taylor Swift, you have Travis Kelce. It's a team that has a lot of issues, but at the beginning of the season, they lost that early game to the Detroit Lions. And really, up until late season, I don't even know if it was until the playoffs. There were a lot of Chiefs fans doubting. I know that all of us on this podcast at one point doubted the Kansas City Chiefs. And we all know Patrick Mahomes had a subpar year compared to what he's done. And I think the perspective we kind of need to have is Kansas City Chiefs are playing with house money right now. There is no reason with how they played that week 1, with how Kadarius Toney played this year, with how their offense has played this year, there's no reason they should be here right now. Their defense has carried them in a lot of ways, but I think the Chiefs are playing more carefree than the 49ers are going to be. And I think that might be the reason the Chiefs win. And that's going to set up my pick. I'm going to go with another high scoring game following last year. And I'm going to go with 35-32 in favor of the Kansas City Chiefs. Preston Graber, what is your pick for the Super Bowl this year?
I think I'm pretty near you on the picks for Chiefs scores, but not 49ers. I'm going Chiefs 38, San Francisco 17.
Okay, a big game. Actually, side note, CBS's Super Bowls have all been blowouts recently. And obviously, that includes the Tampa Bay Chiefs Super Bowl. Jude, finish us off with your pick and then send us into, well, don't give us the quote of the day yet. Give me your pick first.
For me, I'm going Chiefs 21, 49ers 11.
Okay, that defense for both of you is going to step up big. In my scenario, it's not that I don't trust the Chiefs. I just know how good Christian McCaffrey can be. But watch out. Patrick Mahomes, one of the greatest players of all time, I believe the greatest football player of all time, can convince a couple more people this year. So 12-5 San Francisco, 11-6 in the regular season for the Chiefs, but doesn't matter. They're both coming to the Super Bowl. And another side note, the Power and Light podcast turns 1 in just 4 days. That's right. February 13th, 2024 is the Power and Light podcast birthday. We started this podcast after a win last year against the Philadelphia Eagles, and it's been a pleasure for the last year to be with these two guys among many other people on the show. And I think I can speak for all of us when I say I'm extremely excited for what 2024 holds for us. And there will be more updates as we look forward. But February 11th, all of us will be doing the same thing at 5:30 Central Time for us Kansas Cityans. we're watching the Chiefs play the for the fourth time in the last 5 years in the Super Bowl. It's going to be incredible. Chiefs fans, you should feel blessed. This is a big deal that we're even here. And I think it's going to be very fun. So, Jude, send us into our birthday weekend and our Super Bowl weekend with your quote of the day.
The quote of the day is by a wise speaker named Aiden Sherman. He says, "You must work harder than you think you can to become who you aren't yet.